Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we turn to talking about MC and radio host Howard Stern. He's a long-time, long-running TV and radio host who's been around the media for many decades now. I actually grew up watching Howard Stern, admittedly, and he was a big inspiration for me in my early formative years. My parents used to listen to him on the radio. We used to watch his show late nights on E! It was a really fun time and a really different era too. Howard started off this whole edgy wave of comedy on the news, on the radio. He said what came to mind. He called people out. He had dirty guests. He would have different risque people on, celebrities, musicians, all kinds of stuff. He's gone through many waves and changes throughout his career. And unfortunately, things have seemed to have gotten worse as he's getting older. He used to be this edgy guy who called everyone out, wasn't very politically biased. Obviously, he was probably left-leaning, but he kept that mostly to himself for his many years of success. But lately, he's been on a downturn. Lately, he's been fading and kind of not getting a lot of attention on his satellite radio show, and that they've ported that to YouTube a bit. I still watch it from the time to time, just kind of for nostalgic's sake, but recently he's come out and bashed Trump and argued with Trump's sons and said that Trump supporters are really bad people. He's had a lot of really awful quotes that I couldn't ignore anymore. I try to kind of look past this story. I wasn't trying to hide it or anything, but I just love the guy so much back in the day. You have no idea how influential Howard Stern was and how great he was back in the 90s, early 2000s. But now he's fallen off. Now he's turned into a Trump hater. He's got Trump derangement syndrome. And this sort of tiff he's been having with Trump's sons has been rather hilarious. It's kind of escalated where first Howard Stern was arguing with Eric Trump and then Don Jr. got involved, and that's what brings us to the story today. Here's a first tweet from Donald Trump Jr. It says, "It must kill Hollywood Howard to know that more people will see this tweet than listen to his show. That's what happens when you turn your back on your working class fan base and bend your knee to the same mainstream media you used to mock. He never recovered from losing Artie Quitter, sad." So that's a great point. Great, lots of information here. Artie, of course, is another comedian. This is Artie Lang, who used to co-host on his show. Howard Stern has gone through a series of co-hosts. Robin is the main one that's always been with him. She's always been great. And the show is still going on, but as Donald says, not a lot of people are watching it anymore. It's just kind of a legacy program that he runs from his personal operation. You know, it's been around, it's an institution, but it's not very popular anymore. And in addition, Howard Stern has kind of sold out. Like this tweet says, he used to bash the mainstream media and be this kind of alternative guy, this kind of outsider who did his own thing, but that's why people loved him. And in addition, he spoke for the working class. He had a lot of fans that were middle or working class, normal, average people. They loved his grit. They loved his sort of crass way of speaking like a normal person. But nowadays, Howard is like Hollywood Howard. Like this tweet says, he goes to Hollywood. He hosts other shows like America's Got Talent. He's completely sold out and caved in and trying to get in with the mainstream media now because he's just not relevant anymore and he can't hold up on his own. And that's why he's been getting flack from the Trumps, and that's why we're kind of calling him out here. And in addition to this tweet, which is good, and a support for Artie, which as well is cool. And the other thing that's cool is this meme right below is Donald Trump Jr., and he's holding a picture of Howard saying he's triggered. He's also got the pink feminist hat on. And this, of course, comes from the old Nickelback meme. It's called "This Is a Photograph." It's from their song Photograph. And it's just like a picture of the guy from the music video holding a photograph, I think of his girlfriend. But people like to use this meme in a lot of situations. It's just always funny. I can't play the music here because there's a copyright on it, of course. But it basically just goes, "This is a photograph." You know, the song says that, and the people edit in what they want. In this case, it's a really funny dig on Howard Stern, which kind of breaks my heart. Again, like I said, I have a soft spot for this guy, but I'm ready to kind of turn the other way. I'm not going to just hold my ground just because I used to watch him as a kid. It's unfortunate, but things have certainly changed. So With that said, let's go into this article. The Washington Times says Howard Stern jokingly praises Donald Trump Jr.'s genius amid dispute with president's elder son. Now, I am interested to see the details where this goes, and I want to hear what they have said throughout the situation. So let's read on. Howard Stern hit back Tuesday at Donald Trump Jr., sarcastically praising the president's eldest son after recently provoking him by saying his father should resign from office. The host of the Howard Stern Show on Sirius XM jokingly lauded the first son during the program's latest episode in light of having triggered him last week by taking on his dad. He is such a wit. He is such a genius. He would have made a fortune if it wasn't under his father's thumb, Mr. Stern said about the president's son with his tongue in his cheek Tuesday. So he's already sarcastically going after Trump, saying he should resign, saying Trump Jr. is smart despite his father. It's all not making sense to me. I don't see why Trump would resign if he hasn't done anything wrong. I don't see why Trump Jr. has done anything bad either. I mean, he's successful in his own right. Granted, it's been in mostly related things to Donald Trump Sr. and his business, and the whole family is in business together. But still, I mean, it's not like he's in jail or some crackhead living on the streets who can't hold his stuff together. It's like, no, their whole family is a bunch of professionals who deal and do good things. They public speak, they spread the word, they run companies. Like, they're all operators doing really well, and that's noble in its own right. I'd list all of Junior's accomplishments right now, but I only have a 3-hour show. It would take the whole show. He's too strong for me physically and mentally for me to comment on, Mr. Stern quipped. Mr. Stern, 66, made the comments after having come under fire from the first son over remarks the radio host said last week on his show about President Trump and his supporters. The oddity in all of this is the people Trump despises most love him the most, Mr. Stern said at the time. The people who are voting for Trump, for the most part, he wouldn't even let them in an effing hotel. Mr. Stern also said at the time that he personally hates people who voted for the president and that it would be extremely patriotic for Mr. Trump to resign from office. Okay, this is already really troubling. This is one of those terrible, terrible sorts of blanket statements that we see from radical leftists. Like, they hate everyone who voted for Trump. Like, that's saying you hate half the country, dude. Do you want people to listen to your show again? Don't you think a lot of Trump supporters might have listened to your show before? I mean, not now, not really. No one's really caring about Howard Stern anymore. He's just like too old and irrelevant. But I mean, I'm a Trump supporter. I used to listen to his show. I know my parents are the same way. I know a lot of other people in our circles, people we know. We used to listen to Stern back in the day. So this is a bad tactic. This is bad for Stern to go after Trump, to blanket half the country who voted for him, saying he hates half the country. I mean, is that really patriotic? Like, is saying you hate half the country more patriotic than Trump, who's running for president, who's running our country, who's saving us from viruses, who's putting defenses up, doing great things? Unemployment was down, the economy was booming before this crisis, things like that. But no, Stern just wants to talk on his radio show for 3 hours a day, bash half the country for no reason, and say that Trump should resign patriotically. I mean, again, why would he resign? Serious question. What? Because you don't like him? Would Trump resign because Howard Stern, a radio host that's washed up, disagrees with him? No, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, Howard Stern is just talking out of his butt. He doesn't understand how the world and politics work anymore. I think he's been too rich and pampered for too long. Too many people have kissed his own butt, and now he thinks he can be above the president. It's like, no, dude, the president is the biggest player in the world. He won an election against all odds, and if he resigned, that would be disrespectful to the half of the country that voted for him. Now, another thing I want to mention is, why bash half the country? Like, I disagree with stuff sometimes. Like, I disagree with a lot of Democrats, but I don't say, hey, I hate all Democrats and they're stupid. Like, I'm not going to say everyone that voted for Hillary is terrible. Like, I disagree with them. I don't think they're right on issues. I think they're misled. But there's a lot of good people out there who voted for the other side, and that's why I don't make blanket statements like that. I'll attack specific comments by specific people. I'll make a joke once in a while, maybe. I know Howard Stern is joking a lot, but I mean, just look at the guy. What is up with his look nowadays, too? This curly hair, he's so skinny, he's looking so frail, and he's going out against Trump. Another big New York celebrity too. Like these guys probably went back, way back. I bet you they've been on each other's radar for a long time. And yeah, Howard Stern has basically just fallen off, and people just shouldn't be taking him seriously. It's unfortunate. Like I said, I used to like the guy, but it's not the same guy anymore. The president's son fired back last Thursday by saying that Mr. Stern is pathetic for attacking Trump supporters, and he described the radio host's remarks as total BS. Hollywood Howard is such a neutered shell of his former self that he's now attacking blue-collar Trump supporters. In a desperate attempt to be relevant again, Stern from 20 years ago would be embarrassed by today's PC version, Mr. Trump Jr. said last week on Twitter. Mr. Stern subsequently poked fun Tuesday morning at the first son in addition to his younger brother, Eric Trump, in light of the latter recently claiming the novel virus pandemic will magically end once the president's re-election campaign is over. How do you agree with that kind of wit and intelligence? Mr. Stern asked unseriously. So with that part said, I mean, I have to agree. 20 years ago, Stern was a totally different person, totally more independent, more edgy. He didn't care about this PC stuff. He didn't care about fitting in with the mainstream media and getting woke points for bashing the president. Like, sure, I'm sure he bashed other presidents, but it was never this mean-spirited and negative and terrible. I mean, like, let's bash Trump for something you actually disagree with. This is just general bashing. This is just like, oh, I don't like the president. I don't like his people because I'm a Democrat. It's not like, oh, the president should have done this. Like, I don't like the way he's handling the security or the border or immigration or taxes. You know, like, what specifically don't you like? Is it just that you disagree with him? Like, is it just that you don't like Republicans and people that are outside the mainstream media? I don't get it. Seemingly referring again to Mr. Trump Jr. later during the show, Mr. Stern added, I only pray to God that his comments will impress his father and his father will give him love. Mr. Trump Jr. 42 slammed Mr. Stern on Twitter later Tuesday in a tweet where he included a link to this article. It must kill Hollywood Howard to know that more people will see this tweet than listen to his show. That's what happens when you turn your back on the working class and bend your knee to mainstream media. So that was the previous tweet that we originally went over. Howard Stern is over. Party commences this Friday. I'm going to go ahead and lead it. You guys are all invited. It's unfortunate. Like I said, I was always a big fan of the guy. But things change. It's been 20 years. It's hard to keep up. It's hard to stay relevant, especially in the media. I mean, I have trouble kind of keeping my little show going here once in a while. Can you imagine Stern, though? Stern is like the biggest name in news radio. He's the biggest radio guy I've ever thought of or heard of. I mean, his show's not big now. There's a lot of bigger shows that have popped up. There's things like Rush Limbaugh, independent radio, all that stuff. So I understand Stern's frustrations, but I don't think turning on the Trump derangement syndrome faucet is the way to go. I don't think bashing half the country and half of your potential viewers is very smart, especially if you want to get your show off the ground. And I just don't respect this kind of politics play. I mean, this guy used to be a comedian and he used to be interviewing just kinds of celebrities, musicians, artists, actors. He's not a real political guy anymore, especially now. I mean, if he wants to dabble in politics a little bit, come on down, like talk about it more, bring some representatives on your show, invite Trump in on a call, do something with your show, make it more interesting. This is not the way to go, though. All you're doing right now is lashing out and trying to get hype and stuff going on Twitter. You're trying to speak out and just be, bombastic and it's off-putting. I mean, it is similar to what Howard had done before. He calls people out and talks trash, but it's just the wrong way at the wrong time. Trump is trying to handle this pandemic too, and the president and his people are doing a pretty fine job at it, the best they could be doing, the best we could hope for. Granted, there's still a lot of bad out there. We still have a lot to get through, but this is how it's going to happen, and Howard Stern certainly isn't helping. Howard has fallen off, and he's become this liberal shell of his former self. That about wraps things up. Thanks for watching today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Tell me what you think about Howard. Tell me what you think about this story, him clashing with the Trump sons, him bashing Trump, saying he should resign for no reason. Very interesting. Make sure you also hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.